Hey, how's it going? Lewis here again with another weird video about these strange things that happen in my life and these strange things that happen in this world. And this video is primarily about sleep paralysis. I'm sure you've all heard of the term. At the time when I started having these experiences, there was really no medical kind of diagnosis of this occurrence, this phenomena that a lot of people experience. So it's not an isolated incident, and it's not something for you just to ignore, especially if it is actually happening to you. So a little backstory on when this really started occurring and how it thrust me basically into spiritual battle. And I avoided it for many years. I tried to find a medical reason why I was experiencing these things in my sleep. And I knew, though, deep down inside that it was spiritual, it was spooky, and it was weird. And I was just like, man, I don't want to mess with, I don't want to deal with that. That stuff's real, it's weird, and it's the real deal. So, here's the story. So I started having this happen to me a lot when I was stationed in Holland. I worked at the embassy there as a Marine security guard back in 2010 to 2011, the time frame. And there was times when I'd wake up paralyzed. I started feeling the weight on your chest, the feel of fear in the room, just the typical feelings of sleep paralysis. And I was like, man, that was weird. But then it started happening more and more and more. And I was a shift worker, and so my sleep schedule was kind of wonky. And I noticed that usually when I was actually pretty tired, energy, I was like just depleted, fatigued, that's when the phenomena would occur, or I'd say the attacks or the visitations, whatever you want to call them. And so I'm just going to describe some of the scenarios in which I was in and how I eventually was able to fight back. So again, this is 2010, 2011. I was in Holland, and I started waking up paralyzed. I started feeling the weight on my chest, but then I would start to feel being pinned down by my wrists, by my ankles, by my hips. I would be pinned down, and I'd crack my eyes open. My eyes were open, and I could look around and stuff, but my body was actually paralyzed. That's because your body releases chemicals to paralyze your body when you sleep, so you're not running and trying to fly out the window and jumping out of your window and stuff, right? So that way your body doesn't animate itself as if it's moving in the dream space. And I'll talk a lot about dreams later, but so I started feeling pinned down, and then here's the creepy part. And if you think about it, it should sound creepy. And some people, when I tell them this, they're like, ooh, they get the shivers and stuff. It's like, because this stuff's the real deal, right? I'll be laying on my bed, and I'd wake up in the paralysis state, not so much being pinned down, but I would feel as if something was slowly crawling onto my bed, like putting its hands and knees down and getting closer to me. I would feel the bed do this, like in the little spots, like as something was inching towards me from the foot of the bed. And yeah, it's creepy because you can feel it. If you've ever laid in a bed, not one of those super $10,000 mattresses that you could drop an egg on and you don't even feel it. No, this is a cheap mattress, like just pretty basic mattress that when you if you lay on the bed and have someone else crawl onto it, you can feel the weight of the bed and you'll feel the depressions happen. I would feel that as things would approach me, trying to mess with me, right? So there was that. And then in some of the instances when I would wake up, I would see the shadow figures, right? No real, I would say, human form silhouette wise, but there was shadow figures that looked like beings, or I'd say. And they'd come and they'd just like look at you and they'd just be there, broadcasting their fear onto you in a way. That's what they feed on, by the way, so it's really interesting. And so these things would come and visit me. It was weird. I'd wake up and see just like dark, misty, cloud-like mist, like a mist-scape cloud just above me. And then I could see something in there, like hiding in the clouds, like a figure or a face, and it would just like kind of just be there, hazy, hiding, cowardly, but also putting the fear on me. It's like the fear is an external force being pushed upon me for me to feel fear, and then that's how these things gain, they feed off of that stuff, right? And so this stuff was really freaking me out. And when it really started, it got even more intense. As I would start to be more and more afraid, the attacks and the visitations would be more and more intense, and to the point to where I was feeling physically like harmed. And I mentioned in one of my other videos about that. But this was the first time that I started experiencing this, and it was very uncomfortable, felt violated, but it went as such. I would be asleep and I just kind of wake up out of my sleep in the paralysis state, and right before I'd wake up, I'd hear like a growl in my ear, like a deep monstrous growl, something growling at me like it's mad. I was like, what do I do? I'm fucking whatever. And if I was laying on my stomach, I would feel, I did this in my other videos, I did this. I would physically feel that in my anus. Like I would physically feel something trying to penetrate my body and violate me, and it felt disgusting, right? And I'd pucker up. I'm like, man, you ain't doing that shit. And I'd fight back. In fear, I'd fight back and stuff like that. And eventually I'd close my eyes, I'd blink, or I'd shake my head to kind of wake myself up. But the drowsiness was still on me, and so if I would fall back asleep, I'd be right back in that space between the dream space and this physical world. I don't know, some kind of purgatory, whatever. But I'd be in those spaces, and it would come on again, right? And so I had this for many months, and I was just like really trying to figure this out. And I talked to my superiors about it, and I was like, hey, something's going on. It's really bothering me. Please keep an open mind. It's weird. And I'd explain it to them, and they're just like, I don't know what to say. Like, that is weird. That's kind of scary, actually. I'm like, it is. It's fucking weird. Like, help. What's going on, right? And so I ended up seeing like the regional psychiatrist. I was at the embassy at the time, so I was dealing with State Department stuff. So someone came and I talked to him, and he was just there, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you're not going to help me. And then I came home on leave one time, and I did a sleep study here and slept like a baby. Nothing happened. And I was like, okay, there's that. And so I was really trying to find a medical reason why I was experiencing this stuff. But during that time, I tried to explore, and I was like trying to research and like, hey, what is this phenomena, right? And then you've all seen the oil painting of, I believe it's called The Hag, and it's got the woman laid out with the little imp sitting on her, and it's got this creepy ass horse just poking his head in, like, it's a creepy ass picture. But that was the depiction of what was considered being hag ridden, or being ridden by a witch that comes in the night to feed off of you, or something weird like that. And I'll probably explore the folklore more about it. But at the time, I kind of didn't want to look into it, because I was like, man, you know, you see them, they see you. You know, it's from Constantine, which is very true. So I started looking into this stuff. I was like, man, this stuff's crazy. Fuck, man, this is weird. And I started learning about the brain and our sleep cycles and how our brain changes frequencies and how the body, you know, paralyzes itself with certain neurochemicals, hormones, or whatnot. And I was starting to dig into that, and I was like, man, this is weird stuff, but it's pretty interesting. And my dream space has always been active, and so my dreams, you know, I'd pay attention to them and learn about like sleep hygiene, things like that, but trying to kind of get a control of this wonky phenomenon that was freaking me out. And so this went on for the remainder of my time there, and then I ended up going to Brazil, and I was stationed there in Brasilia, and the same thing happened. It just ramped up again once I got settled in. It was with me. It would bother me, and I did let the gunny there. I let him know, like, hey, there's this issue. I've been dealing with it, and we've been trying to put myself on a decent sleep schedule to kind of keep it together, because man, this is some weird stuff. So from 2011 to 2012 was my time in Brasilia, and the baggage was with me. It came with me. It was happening there, but that's when I started to wake up, so to speak. I started questioning my reality. I started looking into, like, quantum physics got my attention. Time got my attention. Like the double slit experiment. I was like, what the fuck? Like, this is, what's going on here? Like, how come I didn't know about any of this weird stuff? But for some reason, I was understanding all these abstract concepts about reality. And then I think I stumbled across The Secret. It's like, oh, you know, law of attraction, all that shit, which is real, by the way. So, and I believe it's got Kabbalistic origin, so, you know, be careful with that stuff, because it works. But anyways, so I started looking into all these things, and I really just wanted to sleep. I really wanted some peace. It was really bothering me, and I came across binaural beats, and it was like, oh, you listen to these, you know, two different frequencies are played at the same time, but when they're played separately in both ears, there's a third overtone or over frequency that's created that your brain hears, right? And so, and I didn't really know much about frequencies and stuff like that back then, but it piqued my interest. And so I was laying there one night in my room, and I put my headphones in, and I put on these binaural beats. I don't remember what hertz it was or anything like that, but I remember laying there, and it was just like some straight tone, these frequency tones. And then I think I just drifted off to sleep, sort of, kind of. But it was the first time I ever, like, I left my body. Like, I projected out of my body. And as soon as that happened, I was like, oh shit. I came back and was like, what the fuck? And I was like, it freaked me out. And I was like, I just want to go to sleep. I just want to sleep in peace. It was like, can I go to sleep in peace without something crazy happening? So that experience, like, I was like, I literally left my body. Like, what the fuck is going on? So that was that. And it was something that, you know, it bothered me for the time being. So fast forward, I get orders. I go to California and spent my last year in the service in Pendleton, and I was checking into my new unit, and the nurse there, one of the docs, she was just doing my checkup. It was like, oh, just reviewing my records and stuff, and asking me if anything's changed, blah, blah, blah. She's like, anything else? And I was like, yeah, there's this one thing. And I told her, I was like, well, this thing happens, and I was like, I have sleep paralysis. And she's like, what's that? And I tell her about it, and she's like, sleep paralysis? She's like, is that like a self-diagnosis? It's like, I guess, because there's no like medical term for it, and so like it's really weird. And she's like, that's interesting. She's like, She's like, actually, I think you should talk to the chief. And she's like, keep an open mind. You know, he's a spiritual person, but I think he may be able to be of some help. And I was like, I appreciate any help I can get with this, because I'm trying to figure this issue out. And so I think that same day, like right after, she goes over to the chief, and she's like, all right, he can talk to you. And I was like, oh cool, I just talked to him right after. And as soon as I walk into his office, I was actually just talking to him today. I still keep in touch with that man. As soon as I walked into the office, like, I looked at him, he looked me right in the eyes, and I looked at him right in the eyes, and I was like, you know something, you see something, and I do too, and you know that I know, or, you know, it's kind of just that when you look at somebody, you're like, hey, wait a minute, like, what's up? You do like kind of like a what's up, and like, who are you though? So it was like that. And we sat and we had a conversation about it. I told him about, hey, there's this, that, and the other. He shared his stories about some of his spiritual experiences, and little dealing with familiars and little shapeshifters and crazy shit like that. And I was like, man, okay, this shit is real. And I was like, man, this is crazy. And this is the crazier part. I think, like, he before he left, he's like, hey, you know, I'm gonna talk to a friend of mine. I don't remember if he was like at a church or something like that, but he said, I'm gonna talk to a friend of mine about your history to see what, you know, maybe he'll have some insight or some clues as to what's going on with you. And so I guess he had talked to one of his friends, and then like a few days later, I'm hanging out in my barracks room. I'm just laying there, and he gives me a call. And he's all, Sergeant San Miguel. I was like, Chief Doran, what's going on, man? And he's like, hey, you know, I talked to my friend, and so on and so forth. And basically, he was saying, it sounds like you're being demonically oppressed. Like there's something, you know, really fucking with you. And I was like, well, it sounds like it, because I told him what was going on, and it's the typical, it's indicators of spiritual stuff messing with me, basically. And here's the interesting part. So he said, after that conversation we had when I was checking into medical, that he got really tired and he just felt completely drained, and he had to go home early. He's like, hey, I'm not feeling it. I'm heading home. I'm done for the day. It was like afternoon, probably, just like, I don't know if it was like 1, it was afternoon, so 1, 2 o'clock or something. Usually you don't go home till like 5 or whatever. So he leaves, and he said that on his way home he was feeling super just drowsy, and he was like about to pass out while he was driving. And he's like, I had to pull over, get out of my car, walk it off, like wake myself up and stuff. And then when he got home, he went straight to his bed. He just laid on it and passed out. In his camis, in his boots, everything. He just laid out. He was drained. And he's like, do you remember our conversation? I was like, yeah. He's like, do you remember it being congested in that room? And I was like, yeah, I did feel like it was pretty stuffy. Like there was just a heaviness in the room as I was telling the story. And he's like, okay. And, you know, he had talked to his friend about it and everything. I was like, oh wow. I'm like, dang, that really, because he's a good man. And so he was like, hey, if you'd like, you know, I could pray for you. And blah, blah, blah. I was like, I'd appreciate any help, because like, I don't know what's going on. I need some type of thing. And I was like, man, it's like spiritual stuff. And so he's like, hold on a second, let me grab my book. And I don't remember what he started saying or what prayer, what he was reading. Actually, I need to ask him. He's like, okay. He starts talking, right? And he's like, oh wait, hold on, let me start over. But as soon as he started talking, I was looking at my barracks wall, and the barracks rooms, I'm sure they're the same damn color, just some like dead tan, off-white, peach, some kind of color. It's just drab. It's depressing. I was looking at the bricks, and then I just see this these layers, they look like layers of blankets that were just translucent, and I'm looking visually, and it just like it just does this, and I see the distortion in the wall, but it drifts over me, but it like distorts my vision a little bit, and I just see like kind of I can see this translucent something, it just like drifts over me, and then I just sit there. And he's like, okay, and he starts over and he starts praying, and I'm just like, what was that? And he's there talking. I don't know what he said. I was listening to him, but I wasn't, because I was just like, what just happened? When that drifted over me, I was completely calm. I was content. I felt safe. Whatever was going through my mind, any anxiety or whatever, it just chilled out. It was gone. And when he was done, I was like, hey, as soon as you started talking, this, invisible scarf, call it, just drifted over me, blah, blah. And he's like, that's the Holy Spirit. And I was like, oh man. I was like, it is spiritual stuff. I'm like, oh man, I don't know how to deal with this. I'm so tired. Like, this is so weird. This is crazy. And so I was like, I guess, okay. But then I had a thought. I was like, hey, wait a minute. I remember that. I've only felt that other feeling one time, sober. And it was when I was a kid. So, backstory. I was in high school, and I went with my mom downtown to the clinic to get checked, because I was already, being sexually active, as a teenager, and thought I had caught something. And so I was stressed the fuck out. I'm over here tripping, like, oh man, I just had a feeling, I just didn't feel good, and all strung out, worried, anxious, whatever, as a kid. And we go to the clinic, whatever, and afterwards we're downtown, and she's like, hey, let's go to the cathedral, I'm gonna pray for grandma. And I was like, okay. So I go with my mom, and we walk through the San Fernando Cathedral. We walk into the cathedral, and as soon as I walk in, I get hit with a draft of cold air. But it wasn't the AC air, right? It wasn't that. It was a different kind of cold, and it just like passed through me. And I felt it, and I was like, whoa. And then I sat down at the pew, and I'm just looking around the cathedral, all the stained glass. A beautiful cathedral, by the way. And looking at looking at all the stuff, and I'm just like, what is this? I'd never been in there before. And my mom's there praying, and I'm just like, in my head, I was like, what just happened? I wasn't worried. I wasn't anxious. It just all disappeared. I felt so safe, tranquil, and I was trying to think of what I was thinking before I walked in that door that was making me anxious, making me worried, all tripping about who knows what I got, blah, blah. I couldn't even think about it. Like, my mind couldn't even think those thoughts. Even as hard as I tried, I tried to worry. I was like, wait a minute, I was just worried a few seconds ago. Like, what? I was like, whoa. And so that was the only other time I felt, the cool draft that passes through you. And and he's like, yeah, that's the chief. He was like, yeah, that's the Holy Spirit. And I was like, man, this is crazy. And I was like, I guess. And so I talked to the chief, and he said his prayer and had that experience, right? So I was like, man, that's interesting. And so what they recommended I do is, go to mental health, get checked out, let's see what's kind of going on. Because at the time I was assuming that, there was something neurochemical with my brain or something. I could have like TBI, I don't fucking know, because, we took indirect fire and stuff when we were in Iraq, and we were shot at and all that crazy shit. So I wasn't sure, so I thought maybe, something medical. So I would go to these appointments, and I think I would go there maybe once a month or once every 3 weeks. I don't know the frequency in which I went, right? And so I'm going over there, and I'm talking to this psych guy. I don't know who he is. He was just some old dude with some glasses. I would just sit like right here where I'm at. His desk was right there, and all he would do, he would just hand me papers, little surveys, on a scale of 1 to 10, how fucking stupid are you? You know, all that dumb shit, like how blah blah blah. 1 to 10, this and that, how do you feel, blah blah blah. I was like, man, what is it? I was like, man, this is crazy. Like, this isn't gonna help me. Anyways, so I'm going there over a period of a few months, and then I had my last appointment with him. This is the crazy shit. This is when I was like, oh man, this is real. I go in there for my last appointment, and I sit down, and he's like, he has my folder, and he's looking through all my paperwork and all that stuff. And so he's just sitting there. Let me try and I'm gonna reenact what he did, because I do not want to reenact what he became. So anyways, so he's just sitting there at his desk, and he just like turns to me, and he sits back in his chair, he takes his glasses off, and he just gives me this dead stare, and he just looks straight at me, and he's just like, we can't help you. And as soon as he said that, this dude's face fucking shape-shifted into a fucking gargoyle, beastly, fucking beady-eyed, just fucking crazy-looking motherfucker before my eyes. And I was sitting there, and I was just like, I took a deep breath, because I felt fear like I hadn't felt before, just like the sleep paralysis. I felt fear in the room. I got cold, and I was just like, and he's just like, just a dead stare, and he was like this fucking beastly creature, and I was just like, I look down, I do this, I kind of shake it off, and I look back over at him, and he's just like normal again, human form, just dead stare, like he was like an empty vessel. It was fucking crazy. And so I was like, okay, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I need to get the fuck out of this place. So then I'm like, hey, Chief, yo, guess what happened? And I tell him what went down. He's like, Sergeant San Miguel, I do my best not to go over there. I have to, you know, because he's one of the chiefs, you know, he has to go over there. He's like, that's Wounded Warrior Battalion. He's like, that place is crawling with demonic activity. He's like, there's broken men there, there's people in pain, there's Satanists, there's witches, there's all kinds of hocus pocus basically going on over there. He's like, yeah, I try not to go over it. And I was like, well, I believe you now. So that's when I knew this was really weird, but that I was on my own. Not really on my own. I have, you know, I'm not really on my own, but when he said that, he looked at me, and that dude shape-shifted before my eyes. I was straight sober. He fucking shape-shifted, and I was just like, what the fuck? This is stupid. This is crazy. So, this is what I saw that they exist. People who shape-shift. There's those people. They're here. So, but don't be afraid of them, because there's a reason why they have to hide. Right, and they have to hide. That's the only way they can move about this place. So, yeah, that happened there. If you deal with that, if you have these experiences and you're contending with these weird spiritual forces, this is what I did. Just put an end to it, to stop it, and to combat it. The first thing that I did was, whenever I would see something getting spooky, look right at it. Look directly at it. And every time I did, it was like, I look at it, it would move. It didn't want me to look it in the face, because I wasn't scared anymore. I was getting pissed off to the point where I was like, man, you guys are pissing me off. So I would just look straight at it, right? And as I would do that, or as I would try to stand my ground intellectually, if you do that, if you put your foot down, try and stand up to them, believe me, they're going to intensify the fear. It's like they crank up the volume or crank up the frequency of fear, and it gets crazier. And I was like, oh shit! I'm like, oh, this is like, oh man, what am I dealing with here? And eventually, I said his name. In the name of Jesus Christ, get out of here. I rebuke you in the name of Jesus Christ. Once I started saying that, it became part of my arsenal, should I say. And sometimes it doesn't work right away. It wouldn't work right away sometimes. Why? Well, because my connection to, God, Christ, all of that, it wasn't super solid. This was like, I was on my way, so to speak. And these things weren't going to let me. They were going to trip me up as every chance they got, right? And so as I started doing that, it would intense, like, oh, you want to say his name? You want to say his name, and when you don't even really know who, and it'd be like, it would just get crazier and crazier. And I was like, man, this is wild stuff, man. Like, whatever, it's my life. Cool. And just over the years, as I've developed my relationship with him and all that, it doesn't come around anymore. And that was the one thing that always worked. And for some reason, I'm not the only one who will say that. You say his name when you're in a pinch, when things get hairy, it gets dicey. You say the name, and they have to flee legally. There's a lot of legal stuff. I'm not going to get into that right now, but everything falls under a certain authority, right? And so it's all legal. That's why you have these weirdos telling you what they're doing. They have to reveal what they're doing. If not, they will face retribution. But if they tell you and you're just like, whatever, they're just, it's just art, it's just music, it's blah, 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 then they've been given permission to do that. When you say it's just this, it's just that, just, it's justified. We really need to, this is really powerful. Our voice is really powerful, and our words are really powerful too, and they're really weird, especially English language. Not going to get into that, but when you start thinking about how we talk and how we say stuff, right? So when we say, oh, it's just this, it's just that, you're justice, it's legal, justice, legality, right? And so, no, there is no just. Like, no, we don't just say that crap. But anyways, digressing back to the phenomena of sleep paralysis. It's a real thing. It can be overcome. And if you deal with this strange anomaly, find others who have gone through it and have come out on the other side. And, you're not alone. And say you're not alone. Yeah, it's weird. All this weird stuff that's happening now to all of us. Maybe there's like a real awakening happening, and it's very, not very pleasant. We're out here. There's other people out here that are moving towards the good, towards the holy. We see the schemes of the world, and we're really pissed off about it. And I just wanted to make this video just to share with you this stuff. This stuff needs to be said. The light needs to be shined in these really dark places. The darkness that blinds us. As I went to do this, my camera just was like, nope. It just shut off. So the darkness that clouds our vision and has influence on us, and we just gotta get sharp and be discerning about things. Ask for discernment. But asking you shall receive, so be ready when you ask for stuff. Be ready to receive these things, because I've asked for good things in my life and I wasn't ready to receive them, and it was actually a struggle, and it just actually caused more problems in my life because I wasn't ready to receive the good things, right? And so if you ask for discernment, be ready to get it, and be ready to see things you haven't seen before. But man, what I've come to realize is that our way back home, back to God, back to wherever we go, our way back, that's the adventure. That's the adventure you're looking for. It's the adventure I've been looking for. Yeah, I do all these things. I play music, I grow my plants, mycology, all these things, skating, jiu-jitsu, all this cool stuff in life. But all of that is part of this awesome journey. And when you start to move towards that, that's when stuff really gets, I'm not going to say fun, but it becomes adventurous. And there's people out here that have done this, and there's other people out here that are in the process of going through it. There's some that are avoiding the process. There's some that are right where you're at, the level that you're at, or right at the level that I'm at, and we're here, we're out here, and we're finally saying it. We got to say it, we got to speak it out, so that way it's no longer inside of us, no longer inside of our minds, kind of messing with us, right? So that's why writing is really powerful. You take all these thoughts, all this whatever, just throw it up on paper, right? You're taking all these energies that are messing with your head, and you're pinning them down on paper. So now they can't really get at you in here. They still exist, like your problems may still exist, but write about them. Just throw up whatever comes to your mind. If you're having some issues in life, or just whatever you're dealing with, just throw it up. Let your mind, get it out of your mind. That's the thing. So that way, when you put it on paper, it's pinned down there. Now, your mind will be able to process more, and the other things that need to be realized or brought into your awareness will start to come into your awareness. And then there's another problem to be solved, or another thing to look into, or another rabbit hole to go down, or another thing to contend with. Whatever. It's just. This stuff's real. It's real for some of us. For other people, it's not. And I'm glad it's not real for other people, because it sucks to deal with it, right? And so I just wanted to make this video just to hopefully inspire you all not to be afraid of it. It's a phase in the awakening process, so to speak. And this didn't come together until very recently. When I was in Holland, talking about the sleep paralysis and all the things, and my other video where I talk about renouncing oaths of Freemasonry and the oath of enlistment and stuff. When I was in Holland, when this stuff really started happening, I was in school. I was taking an online class, and I was taking a philosophy class. I don't know who I was reading about or whatever, one of the great thinkers or whatever. I was sitting there on post, bored. It was mids. It's just me and nobody else. And I was going through my coursework, and I was reading. And then I just look up and look around me. And I was like, what happened? I used to think like this, who am I? What is all this? What is my purpose of existence? Am what I am? I used to think like this as a kid. I used to always question what was going on. And I was sitting there, I looked around, I looked down, I looked at my camis, my uniform. I was like, definitely didn't have this going on. Definitely didn't have this going on at all. Getting haircuts all the damn time. It was so annoying. Anyways, I was looking at all that. I was just like, what am I doing? Who am I really? I want to know. And it was in that moment I just had a realization. I was like, I'm done. I'm getting out. I'm done. I'm gonna finish out my enlistment. And I was like, I made the decision, like, I'm getting out. I'm gonna ride this out, whatever. Then the night attacks happened. Then the sleep paralysis. Then that stuff really started ramping up, because it was a security mechanism of whatever I was in bondage with. Was like, wait a minute, you're not going anywhere. We're gonna hold you down and fuck with you and stuff like that. And so it took a long time for all that to come together. That's many years ago, right? And so life isn't linear. It's something else. It's a beautiful thing. But just wanted to throw that in there. So if you're dealing with this, know that you're not alone. There's people out here that have dealt with it, have overcome it, and you can overcome it too. So thank you for watching. If you have any experiences with this, leave it in the comments. And man, if you want to talk about this stuff, I love talking about these things and finding solutions to these strange spiritual problems that we're all faced with. So thank you for listening. I appreciate you listening to my stories, and have a blessed day. Take care.